Joe, what happens to a frog's car when he parks illegally?
What?
He gets towed. He gets towed.
Towed.
Can you hear? Yeah. See,
that wasn't a connection issue. That was literally me not getting the joke for 5 seconds.
That's good. How do crazy people get through the forest? They take the psychopath. they take the psychopath because they're crazy.
All right, Jacques, we're going to start the podcast in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2.
Hey, this is Jacques.
Live from L.A., and this is Joe from Boston, Massachusetts. We're coming coast to coast. Welcome-ish to Carnival Personnel. Joe, it's been way too long. You must really miss me. Jacques, it's been way too long, and I must really miss you. I don't know if you can hear me or...
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah.
I can.
Oh, we're off to a roaring start now. Oh, boy. Look at us talking over each other. And, oh, man. I don't know how George Stephanopoulos does it with those heads of state on ABC News from, those live via satellite interviews. But they must have a higher budget than Carnival Personnel because we tried everything. The reason why Jacques sounds like he's transmitting from the inside of a storage facility that's been hollowed out down to the studs and is 1.5 miles below the Earth's surface. It's because he doesn't have a USB microphone that works on his laptop, and he's communicating in via Skype. So there's already a 2-second delay, and his voice sounds tinny, and then you may also hear my voice being echoed back at some point, which is a bonus for you guys, I say. 2 of me is worth... 1 of Jacques, I think, which actually devalues me. Anyway.
Well, 1 in the bush? 2 Joes in the hand is worth 1 in the bush?
I would never wish 2 Joes in anybody's hand.
So it's been 3. We've missed 2 podcasts, so this would be the 3rd week by the time this is dropping.
Yep.
I think maybe 4.
No, it's 3 weeks.
I'm trying
2 weeks.
Trying to think when I left. I don't remember what day I left because it's been a blur, and I was just trying to figure that out before I called you. What day? So management's birthday was on the 23rd. So I think I left on the 27th, something like that. So we would have missed 1, 2,
3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Who cares about our schedule? In the podcast universe, this is all instantaneous. When people are listening to the archives 20 years from now, and they're just
correct.
They're binging this podcast from the whatever internal microphone that they have in their ear that Apple implants in all babies 30 years from now. It won't matter. It's all the same. It's all one. So
we'll get right to the big news. You have seen a superhero movie before I did.
It's crazy, that's what happened when you leave the state. That's what happens when you travel at all. That's why I don't even go to New Hampshire. That's why I don't want to miss any superhero movies that I want to see. I mean, I've missed many superhero movies, Batman v Superman, but there are certain ones that I will not miss, and that's Spider-Man. And I enjoyed Spider-Man Far From Home. And I can't wait to spoil it for Jacques. So it turns out the bad guy.
So you said you said your second, but then you remembered Into the Spider-Verse. So I think you ranked this as your 3rd favorite Spider-Man ever movie.
Yeah, I would say, and I have to rewatch Spider-Man 2 again, but I'm pretty sure I really enjoyed Spider-Man 2. But Into the Spider-Verse, I almost forgot. Which is blasphemy because it's literally, I think, the only Oscar-winning Spider-Man. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was some technical Oscars awarded to previous Spider-Man movies, but Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is now streaming on Netflix, is probably my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. But as far as live action goes, Spider-Man 2 is a little bit better than Spider-Man Far From Home. But I think Far From Home is an improvement from Homecoming. It's It's I won't spoil anything for you, but they're not in New York.
I liked Spider-Verse. I know, and of course, I'm mostly upset because Spider-Man can't be black, obviously. Just like mermaids can't be black, which I don't know how much of that you've been following, but it's just awesome. It's just, and a couple years ago, sidebarring a little bit, Idris Elba was rumored to be in talks with taking over James Bond. And can you imagine the shit people would lose if there was a black James Bond? I don't know if the rest of the world is racist, but anyways, yeah, I liked Spider-Verse. I didn't love it as much as I think I wanted to, because like people like you and the boys really, really loved it. I liked it, and I love Ryan Reynolds. So, but yeah, I mean, but this Spider-Man, I think this current Spider-Man is my favorite version of Spider-Man. I like this kid an absolute lot. I mean, I think, the right age, and I like the other ones. I mean, I don't own them, so obviously I didn't love them enough to, when I got the Apple TV, to backdate and buy the 6 that were already out there. And there's probably a package now that you can probably get them for probably $100 for all 6 or something like that. And if that happens, I get them. I liked them all. No, I didn't. Episode 3 with Andy Garfield. Did you ever see that one? It was almost like a Bollywood Spider-Man.
The Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man movies I have not seen, but I thought there's only 2 Amazing Spider-Man movies.
Then I'm thinking the Tobey Maguire one. Like the third, there was one of them that had the third installment. It was Bollywood. There was 3 elongated dance numbers in it that just kind of
That Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire and Topher Grace as Venom. Is that what you're thinking of?
It might have been, but the new guy loved it in Endgame, loved in Civil War, loved in Infinity War, and I really liked Homecoming. I really, really liked Homecoming a lot. So I'm looking forward to seeing this, but no, we haven't seen it yet, but it's stunning that you've seen a superhero movie before me and loved it.
My main motivation to see Spider-Man Far From Home in the theaters, not only to experience the glory on the big screen, but to get into an air-conditioned room on the weekend, because my house does not have air conditioning, because I live in the 1920s. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go wax and curl my mustache.
the bob and tube wiring doesn't allow for it, probably.
No, it does not.
So I'm in LA, and there's a great Disney-owned theater out here called the El Capitan, and it's an old theater that they took over maybe 20 years ago, but it's an old Hollywood, beautiful theater, balcony, and it's the best place to see Disney movies. And I'm going to start off talking about, spoiler-free, talking about Toy Story 4, but let me put this right out there. And I was going to tweet this last night, but I didn't get a chance. Trying to think the right way to say this, collect my thoughts. I want to be crystal clear. Fuck you, Pixar. Fuck you very, very much. They make you cry twice before the opening credits.
What the hell?
2 times. I didn't drive across country to spend the whole fucking vacation crying, which I have done, which we'll get into later. But I did, and I knew it. I knew going in. It's like, okay, these sons of bitches pull tears out of my face like nobody's business. And I was expecting something, but I truly wasn't. Yeah, I kind of was. Twice before the opening credits. Just twice before the opening credits. It's like when Attila the Hun saw his mother.
Niagara Falls.
So, but it was great. And it was great. And I was worried because, sometimes, as we've talked about 1,000 times, franchises try to go to the well too much, and it just doesn't work out. Sometimes,
but not this times.
Right. Well, this is why I'm so glad the Superman franchise with Christopher Reeve stopped at 3, and why they only made 2 Godfathers.
Wait,
but I was worried that the fourth one.
Are you saying that Spider-Man 4 blipped out of your universe? Because in my universe,
it's great. It's really a different story. It's great. I'm very looking forward to being able to talk about it when I get back, because the spoiler what's the word that I'm looking for? Memorandum or moratorium?
Yeah, moratorium.
Moratorium will have been lifted. Okay, will have been lifted. It's funny because we were at Harry Potter at Universal. I'll get into, and our friend Renetsky, friend of the podcast, Ellen was talking about something. Oh, there was this character, and it was really sad when they died. And she's like, I haven't seen it. Don't spoil it. And it's like, I think we're past the day you can talk about Darth Vader being Luke's father. I think we're all good there, But we both saw movies. I highly recommend, if you got some water weight to lose and you want to go see, Toy Story 4, it will take care of it for you. Keanu Reeves is great.
Do they have do they hand out at the movie theater Toy Story 4 branded Kleenex boxes? Because I think they're missing something if they do not.
The wife actually brought Kleenexes, and as it starts, she just hands me some. It was, but I don't know, because I don't watch that many commercials. How much do they give away with Keanu Reeves' character in it?
From the trailers and the commercials, it's just he's Duke Kaboom, Canada's most daring, what do you call it, stuntman. Not too much. There's no origin, although I did see an Easter egg thing online where Duke Kaboom can be seen in The Incredibles 2 as one of the action figures being held or in Jack's playpen. And that's from the 60s.
I saw that. Yeah, that was great. That was great. Yeah, no, there's a catchphrase that he has that I don't want to give away. So if they didn't show in the commercial, I'm not gonna.
I don't think they did that. No. Yeah. So maybe I guess they're wise in their marketing to not give away everything, or even like the most juicy of tidbits in their commercials. So yeah, don't say it here. Leave it for me to spoil next week when I see Toy Story 4 this weekend.
So speaking of Far From Home, as I am, so I'll bring a little update on the trip, because you and I have barely even spoken, which is weird because usually I call you on the way home from the podcast after talking for 4 hours.
And the connection sounds just about as good as this connection. So, this is actually very nostalgic for me. Anyways, go on. How was your trip to the City of Lights, as I like to call it, because I couldn't think of a nickname for Los Angeles?
Most people go with the City of Angels.
Oh yes,
I believe Paris is the City of Lights, and people do not. Have you ever heard anybody from Boston refer to Boston as Beantown, and not in a mocking way?
No, nobody in Boston refers to Boston as Beantown. Yeah, no, never. I don't think we even sell beans anymore. That's how outdated that reference is.
So the trip out was great. I want to do a whole sideshow about. I'll do a sideshow about the trip out and do a sideshow about the trip back, and we can contrast and compare our trips when we made a similar journey. It's great, but just focusing on being here. I think I told you a little bit. I at least texted a bunch of people. So we got here on July 2nd. And we went to Six Flags on July 3rd with a friend from the podcast, Renetsky. And we also went on the 3rd. And the craziest thing, we got into the park. Trying to think when we got into the park, but we got into the park, and on Tuesday and Wednesday, July 1st and 2nd, we went to Universal. I'm sorry, we went to Six Flags here. I'm trying to get the date straight, but it was a Wednesday. Yeah, the second day we went. Sorry for babbling. There was a promotion where we could get into the park an hour early. So we got to the park crazy early. We got in. The boys are on the second ride, maybe the third ride in the morning, and there's no lines. You're walking right onto the rides. And we get to a big roller coaster. You know, a cart just pulls away as we're getting in line. They get on the next cart, it pulls away. The third car pulls in, and people, it's not a full cart, but they're, you know, keep the trains moving, as they say in Germany during the war, getting people out of Auschwitz. The trains did run on time.
Thanks for driving that part home. When I didn't know where you were going until you said Auschwitz, and I go, oh yeah.
But so they first Nazi reference in the podcast. So there's the cars are going. It's a big roller coaster. It's like a 2-minute roller coaster, and all of a sudden the whole platform is rocking and a rolling, you know, shaking and a jiving, grooving and a moving. And I don't think anything of it. I don't think anything of it because there's 3 different, you know, roller coaster carts out on the track, you know, with, you know, and so car 1 comes in. Everybody gets off, but they don't open the gates to fill it up with the next people. And now the line's not big, but there's enough people to fill it, obviously. And they send that empty cart down the track. The second car comes in, and they empty that out, and they send that car down the track. And again, they don't let people fill it. And then the third car comes in, and the boys are on that one, and they have to exit on the other side, and the gate won't open. I'm like, can you open the gate so I can, you know, cut across, you know, the car to get to the other side where they are? And they're like, no, it's locked. It's on lockdown. And I'm like, on lockdown? And this girl says, yeah, we can't open this gate right now. And so I'm like, well, how do I get to the boys? So you're like, you have to basically salmon upstream and go back the other way. And now it's 15 minutes later. So there's a good crowd waiting. No, it's not middle of the day crowd yet, but it's starting to fill up. And so it takes me a while to get to the boys. And just as I get to them, the park makes the announcement that there was just an earthquake. But by the time I got to the boys, maybe 4 or 5 people had called me asking me if everything's all right. And so it's not close to an exaggeration. The boys were on a moving car on a roller coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain when the 6.4 coaster hit.
Yeah, I just also want to reiterate that I was not one of those 4 people that called you while the earthquake was happening to see if you were all right.
I know in the heart you were thinking of it, but so management is yeah, no, it was Wednesday and Thursday we went. She was on her way to the airport at Logan in Boston to fly out there. She's like, you have to leave the park. And I'm like, but the park's kind of empty. We got in an hour early. I'm going to keep doing rides when they open. Plus, this might scare some other people off, you know. Stop being a snowflake. But we did. We stayed the whole day. And then so that was a 6.4. So management gets here on that night, on the 4th at night. So that's that night. So that's a Wednesday. She's there Thursday. We putt around, do some stuff. Or she gets there on Thursday. She gets there Thursday night. On Friday, her first full night there, it's before I go to hockey. It's about 7:30 LA time, maybe 6:37. We're at Renetsky's house. She's at work. The little guy is by me, the boys are at the table, and the whole house starts shaking. I mean, really shaking. And both Ellen and I calmly, you know, just walk under the arches, and we're like, come on over here with me. The little guy comes to one side of the room with me, smartly bringing his ice cream bowl with him. You know, he doesn't know why we're calling him over. The oldest one goes by his mom because of 2 reasons. It was closer, and she hasn't cut the cord with him yet, so it's a little easier for her to just reel him in. And I put my arm around him, and they're like, what's going on? And it's everything in me not to be Red Foreman and say, you notice how the lamps and everything, the chandelier is hitting the side of the roof, you dumbass, and things are falling off a shelf. It's called an earthquake.
I would have just been whole Red Fox and just say, this is the big one, Elizabeth. Like, why? You know, you could have really been
played it up.
Yeah.
But you're the funny, quick one. And so, yeah, it was a very I was going to say a long one. I just did. But I'll go with it was a very sustained earthquake. It lasted about 40 seconds. And it was much bigger. I'm not getting into explaining the whole Richter scale, but when you see something go from a 6.4 to a 6.5, it's like almost a doubling effect. It's not like turning the volume up on your stereo from 6.4 to 6.5 and it goes up a little. And so this one was about a 7.4. It was pretty big. So to recap, we were in town 2 days. The boys were on an earthquake while on a roller coaster. Management was not in Los Angeles for a full 24 hours, and she got to experience the biggest earthquake they've had here since the Northridge quake the year before I moved out. There wasn't a lot of damage where we are, but literally a couple things falling off the counter and the chandelier going back and forth pretty dramatically. And it's like, well, we can check that off the box of boys getting to experience different things. And so that was their first one, because they, funny how they didn't notice that there was an earthquake going 80 miles an hour on a loop, roller coaster. They didn't feel that. And then the other day we were driving to have lunch yesterday, and management is driving down the 101 or down the 405, which I'm quite sure you missed the traffic in the 405. And she's like, well, something's going on over there. And I see 3 helicopters. And she's like, no, 4. And then she points out what looked like not a drone you get at I almost said Radio Shack, but like a bigger drone. And so instantly turn off, K-Rock and put on like the local news station. And sure enough, we were sharing the freeway with a high-speed chase about 5 miles, off to the west of us. It's like, and you were here in your time here. Did you go a week without turning on the TV and seeing a high-speed chase?
No, I mean, I thought it was part of like the morning, mashup or, breakfast with car chases, that kind of thing. It was that frequent. I thought they were, you sure they weren't reenacting like the 25th anniversary of the OJ car chase?
Go Juice, go.
Go Juice, not, I just want to reiterate, the connection's poor. He said go Juice.
It is LA, so I could, and where I am anti-Semitic.
Oh no, I thought you
wanted to make that.
Yeah, I thought you were, chanting something from a MAGA rally just recently. I just want to make sure that we get the air clear. So go on with
Jews
the car chase.
But literally, what could be more LA than on our way to a Disney movie, the El Capitan, and being delayed by a car chase on the highway right after experiencing two earthquakes as a family. So that's been the highlight of the trip so far.
Well, great.
Over.
What are the lowlights of the trip? Or do we want to keep talking trip? Because, I mean, you have, on this rundown, we haven't even gotten to trip update. This is the speaking from far from home area. Now we're going to get to trip update. And, we're already about 20 or so minutes into the podcast. But, as long as it's all trip, I don't mind. It actually just, takes precious time away from the kids in cages stories.
Which I got. Remind me of the kids in cages when I talk about F&H hockey. But I'll skip the actual driving and the stories and the fun stuff, and we'll do a sideshow on just the drive. But I will say, Monday and Tuesday went to Disneyland. Spent Monday at Disneyland. Spent Tuesday at California Adventure. And as always, we stayed at a hotel down there so we could get up at 5:30 and be in the parking lot. The parking lot opens at 7. So we were the first car, but we were one of the first 2 or 3 cars in the parking lot. And we were at the gates, and they let you in early, a half hour early. You get to go down Main Street of Disneyland, and then it's roped off at a certain area where the rides start. But you can be in the park a half hour early, but you can't actually walk to the rides. That was 7:30 because it opened at 8. And when they open it, there's a team of cast members, they call them, so you can't run past them. So there's no stampede. They walk briskly. It's great to see like 300 people, speed walking, to a ride, and it's just, and it's funny watching people try to take shortcuts and weave around this and weave around that. They know this secret path over there, and they wind up at the same place that you are. But we know, it's like I tell people all the time. It's like, look, get there early and go right to the biggest ride, because you'll get right on, and by the time you get off that ride in that 15-minute window, it's now an hour away. So just get there early. So we did that. Management posted it. You saw it. We have not talked about it in person yet. Joe, I cried. Like, I didn't cry like, a baby with a spit diaper, but as I'm walking up and I see the Falcon, it's truly Niagara Falls. And the boys are trying to ask me questions. Oh, look at that, Papa. Look at this. Oh, did you see that? And in my head, I'm like, don't talk, don't talk, don't talk. Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. And then the little guy's like, Mama, Papa's crying. And she tells him, it's like, I know. And what she had posted is, it was me being 8 years old. And of all the cool movie things I've got to do and Hollywood things I've got to do and the world travel I've got to do and the way I Forrest Gump my way to sidelines of the NFL and, Monday Night Football, and you go down the list. I've got to do. Nothing prepared me for seeing the Millennium Falcon. Not in my wildest dreams, I never actually thought I would see the Falcon. And it's Disney, so you don't see it right away. You walk through, that part of the park where for the last 10 minutes, you're on another planet. You are transported away, from everything like the trash barrels, and you go down the list for all of Disney's faults with how they treat employees, and you go down the history of Walt Disney being a sympathizer. They do this right, and Joe, I literally couldn't stop, like the whole time. Like we're in the queue, and we walked right on. Having said that, it makes you walk from where the ride starts to get on is at least a third of a mile. So, and the idea is they make these long, you got to weave through the thing so you feel like you're moving, type thing when there's crowds. And it was one of two times on the trip where I walked right onto a ride and I didn't want to. I was happy being immersed in everything going on around it and stuff like that. And you kind of have to know the canon, because one of the people, like animatronic, that explains what you're doing. So you get on the Falcon and you got to go on a mission to steal coaxial, like, the fuel that you wouldn't know about unless you saw Solo, the Solo movie. It's you have to shoot a train to make to make it fall to the ground so you can steal like that liquid fuel. So you have to know the Solo movie. But the guy explaining it to you, the animatronic, he's the pirate guy from the Clone Wars TV series, so you kind of have to be immersed in the whole canon. But you do. Then you get on the Millennium Falcon, and there's 6 people who fly it. There's 2 pilots, 2 gunners, and you're in the cockpit, and 2 engineers. And depending on what station you do, if there's 2 pilots, 1 pilot controls going up and down and 1 left and right. And the 2 gunners control different parts of the gun. So you have to work as a team. And it's a game. It's literally a video game. And those motion rides usually make me sick. But the first time I did it, it's like, so I'm piloting. And when you get to pull down the level to jump to hyperspace, honestly, if a meteor had hit, I couldn't go out happier. Like literally, I will not go out happier.
I have one question. One question. I want to interrupt you. Just one question. Please answer this for me and for the rest of the Star Wars fans out there. Is it what hyperspace looks like?
Exactly. They nailed it. They nailed it. But so we get off the ride and instantly get back in line. And by that point, it's 45 minutes. And it's fine. So you did the biggest ride twice in 45 minutes. You're the one. So, and then we left and did the rest of the park. And it was one of those things where we got there in the park when it opened. We were there 14 hours. both Renetsky and management set their what do you call it, to clock the steps that they take?
Pedometer.
The step counter to see how far. We walked. Renetsky's was 12.7 and management was 12.4. So somewhere in between that. It was a 12-mile day. We get back to the hotel and truly walked in the door, got in the bed, and it was midnight, and we're back up at 5:30 after walking 12 miles. And we did Hell Adventure the next day, which was great. The Guardians of the Galaxy, they repurposed the old Tower of Terror, and we walked right on the ride. It was perfect. But again, the pre-show thing, you walk through the Collector's Museum, but where we walked right on the ride, you didn't get to sit there and gawk at everything. And it's fun. We did it a couple times. It's the cast that it isn't, so they must have pre-shot everything. But yeah, so the highlights for me was Star Wars, and we hit 5 theme parks on the way here, 2 days at Disney, 2 days at Six Flags, a day at Universal, and nothing will come close. It was seeing the Millennium Falcon, Joe, was everything I could have imagined and 10 times more.
And I was so happy to see the pictures on Facebook that your better half put up, because before you left, we talked about, are you going to go to Disney or Star Wars Land when you go to Disney? And it's like, well, because it just opened. And it's like, well, it's probably going to be lots of crowds. We may not even hit it this year. And then, next thing I know, you guys are down there, and I see on the update, yeah, we're first in line. We went on Millennium Falcon twice. Jacques cried, that kind of thing. So it made me very happy to see that you basically you found your nirvana. This is your Valhalla, your heaven. This was it. I mean, I don't know what mine would be. I think we joked that, I joked to you that mine would be when Nintendo World comes to Universal. That might be my version of what you experienced at Disney Star Wars. But I got to see the Ghostbusters house, but that's a real place. The Millennium Falcon, not only did you get to see the outside of the Millennium Falcon, but you got to pilot the Millennium Falcon, and
right.
And I'm pretty sure you got cocky on there at one point.
You did see the Simpson ride, but Universal did not have Springfield there like fully. They had a Quickie Mart when you saw it, but it was not what it is now. I think you might be more
Back to the
taken away.
Future. I would have been more Back to the Future, and that's where I missed it. Our friend Steve visited. He's a big Back to the Future fan, as you know, and he got to go and experience the Back to the Future ride, I think a couple of years before they repurposed it as for The Simpsons. But I missed my window of opportunity. I think it was up for 15 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Back to the Future, the ride. Luckily, I guess I got to see the video of it when they released it on DVD, but it doesn't compare. So yeah, I kind of missed that. I mean, but we'll see. It's fine.
Well, the Back to the Future ride, the ride was great, and when you're in the queue, when you're in the queue, they have all this fun Back to the Future stuff it had, and then when you get in the building and the pre-show thing, you're kind of swept up away in it. But now Springfield you are in Springfield. It's a whole city block of everything from the police station to the power station. I didn't send you the video last night, but you can. You can see Homer's office. It's even changed since we've been there a few years ago. So I won't go, I'll do a driving to and from stories for a sideshow, which I think would be fun. I'll probably tell you all the stories before, and then I'll go ride by ride, because the boys we did a couple rides real quickly at Six Flags. There's a ride where a crane, you're suspended. You're literally, me and the two boys are in sort of sleeping bags with harness on them, and this crane swings you way back, and we went they clocked it 84 miles an hour, wow. And you're headed straight to the ground, and then you swing like a pendulum back and forth. I did it with my brother and another friend 22 years ago, and I swore I would never, ever, ever do it. The boys begged. You had to pay separate to do it, $40. And it's one of those things, once you're up there, the scariest thing is you have to pull a ripcord to start it. There's no mechanical thing for them to release it. And if we had to pull the cord, if I'm the one who had to pull the cord, we'd still be there now. and I don't mean from last week with the boys. I mean, 21 years ago, my brother and the other guy and I would still be up. So my oldest one pulled the cord. And you're headed straight. It's like parachuting. Like there's a woman who went on before us with her son, and she's like, she's a parachuter. She hasn't done it in a few years. She's like, he can't do it till he's 18. This is as close as you can get. And that ground comes up fucking fast. So we get off, and the guy notices the stamps on the hand. You can buy to go on. It's $40. But if you're a season pass member, you can do it. You can do it a second time for free. And they're like, do you want to do it a second time? And the boys are like, yep. And I looked at the guy and like, do I have to do it? He's like, nope. I'm like, boys, I love you. Not enough to do this the second time. So they did it. So just them did it. And I'll send you the video, or I'll post it maybe on the Twitter. Dude, the balls on those kids. And then I take the oldest one to ride a different ride because the little guy, he's 49 inches, and most rides are at Six Flags 52 inches, so can't do them yet. But if you want to look this up, Joe, what he can do, you know what the carnivals, those rides that like just bring you up on a chair and just drop it. There's like it's called the Lex Luthor, Joe. It's 40 stories. If the connection isn't working, I'll say it again. It's 40 stories. And it brings you up and drops you. Let's see, doing the math. 40 stories. And Renetsky is like, oh, we're going to go do this ride. And he sees that he's tall enough to do it. And she lets him do it, himself, And I'm like, she sends me these pictures. And I'm like, management is like, I can't believe you let him do it. And I'm like, I did it. But when his brother found out he did it and wanted to do it, I did let them do it again. So they are all good. So the only other thing I'll talk about with theme parks is the visceral reaction that I had at Star Wars Land. Oh, the last thing about Star Wars Land is we didn't do all the sightseeing. It's like, okay, we were in the Millennium Falcon. None of the other rides are open yet. There's 2 more rides that will be open over the next 6 months. So we did that. It's like, okay, let's get back to the park. You do all the rides before the crowd, and then you go sightseeing. We're leaving the park, Joe. We were out of the park, and I say, hey, let's walk through and take pictures of the Falcon at night, and let's go by that bazaar they have, which BRM, Joe, BRM.
Which means?
Big rookie mistake. Big rookie mistake. Because as you did see the pictures on management's Facebook, the little guy saw a real Jedi outfit. And by real Jedi outfit, I mean real expensive.
You like to keep it real.
And he looks so great in it. He looks so great in it. And management is like, well, it's crazy expensive. What do you think? And I just turned and walked away. Because I'm not going to give an objective opinion.
You had to recuse yourself from the decision on buying a Jedi outfit for your young son.
And not one of these Jedi outfits you get at Target during Halloween. You know what I mean? I mean, the material is really thick. It's great. And my kid. He will wear the fuck out of this thing. He better. It costs a lot of money. $200, well worth it. So the last theme park thing I will tell you is management had the same reaction to walking into Hogsworth as I did to the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, she got to see Harry Potter World at Universal.
Dude, and that's the thing. It's like the Six Flags across the country, there's nothing like the Six Flags out here. It's like we're snobs. We are snobs. We've been to theme parks around the world. We are snobs. I get it. But the Six Flags out here can't compare to Universal or to Disney, but it's 1,000 times better than any other Six Flags. But it does have a couple great things. But Universal has really stepped up its game because the season passes have gone up. I mean, Universal is manageable. It's a couple $100 for a year pass. Where Disney, it's about 1,000 now. And you get your money. You don't feel cheated. I mean, as crazy as those money is, you don't feel cheated. And what they have done with Harry Potter, they have a nighttime show where I don't know how they project things in the sky without a backdrop. I mean, it was mesmerizing, but management lost it walking through Hogsworth. And again, we got there early, so she got right on that Harry Potter ride. And as soon as you got off the ride, she was on the ride. It opened at 9. She was on the ride at 9:05. At 9:15 when she got off, it was over an hour wait. But then you walk through, and it's all there. The candy shop is there. The wand shop is there. And it's immersive, and the characters are great. So it was great to see that she had the same reaction being a Harry Potter, aficionado. You know how I know she read the books before she saw the movie, Joe?
Yes, I do. Well, that's great. I'm glad you guys have had a ton of fun so far, and you will be having tons of fun in the coming week or so. You're there for another 2 weeks?
I'm here for another week of work. So management leaves. Management left yesterday. I am at a meeting right now. So I'm staying through Thursday of this week, and then it's going to take about 8 days to get back. The boys had never been to Canada, and they still really haven't. We went to Niagara Falls, so just right over the border, and we're going to have lunch in Mexico on the way to Austin. So the plan is to go to Austin, see our friend John Hunt, formerly of Beyond Id, pre-Dan Cray and Beyond Id, when it was just Beyond Id. Singer guitarist of the band Five Hit. We play a lot. Then going to go to Waco to see Chip and Joanna from Fixer Upper on HGTV. Like that. Anyways.
Yeah, I know who they are.
My 9-year-old loves them. It's like I could take him to the Hall of Fame. Anyway, hockey, basketball, football, no interest. Taking to Chip and Joanna's bed and breakfast in Waco, Texas, and it's his Star Wars. I failed.
You're not going to take him to the David Koresh bed and breakfast in Waco?
See, that's Waco to me. Like that's Waco to me.
That's my Waco.
So, and then we're going to take. I'll talk a little bit about the trip. We're going to go through Georgia. I'm actually getting involved in the state politics of Georgia. I'm serious. We're going to hit like 5-6 flags. Going to hit 5 or 6 Six Flags on the way back. So it's going to take like 8 days to drive back. But anyway, so the trip's been good. The last thing I was going to talk about the trip, of course, is Friday night. And it's everything I hoped, and the guys, it's funny because within the first 10 or 15 minutes, everybody's like, is somebody streaming the podcast? Where's Joe? I heard "Where's Joe" more than the phrase "Where's Waldo" has been said collectively by the universe.
You know what? Now I kind of get. I'm sorry. I just want to interrupt. That I listened recently to the Conan Needs a Friend podcast with Andy Richter, and they brought up the fact that years into their show, they couldn't walk down the street alone without somebody coming up to them and saying, "Where's Andy?" or "Where's Conan?" So now I get that you're actually getting that same thing with our throngs of fans.
I butchered a joke last Friday night, and I think it was All-Star Tommy who's like, "Don't worry, Joe will fix it in post."
More work for me. Ha ha. Anyway, well, that's nice.
So it was great.
I'm glad that everybody enjoyed me not being there.
They did not. They would swap out you for me gladly. And really the way I play, not much of a difference. You can't skate, correct?
No, I cannot. Okay.
Like I said, you could switch us out. We'd be interchangeable at this point in my hockey ability. I will say this, and I'm going to tell this story real quick as I can. It was great seeing everybody. Scotty Black was supposed to bring me a stick my first Friday night, but after the earthquake decided, he texted saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm not going to make it. The boys are a little freaked out," which instantly made me call him a pussy. I said pussy, and I don't know if he knew I was calling him a pussy or his kids. Either way, I'm fine with it. Scotty Black is from Canada. His wife is from Japan. So I get to the locker room, and I bring it up instantly. Which side of his kid's lineage were causing him to stay home? The Japanese side or the Canadian side? And I said to Biff, I'm like, well, another guy who's there whose wife's a guy, Rick, his wife's parents are both Japanese immigrants. So his mother-in-law and father-in-law were both from Japan. Both in internment camps in the war. Fun fact. But anyways, he was there. So I'm like, well, his kids are here, so it can't really be the Japanese side, but his kids are quarter Japanese, where Scotty Black kids are half Japanese. So maybe it is the Japanese side, which let me turn to Biff and say, this is why you lost the war. And then I'm like, well, it can't be the Canadian side, because when you think of men from Canada, you think of tough, fortitude, you know what I mean, resiliency, and then you realize those are the ones that stayed. Right. You know, the pussies. So Scotty Black shows up the second week, and he brings a stick for me to borrow. And so in hockey, there's an old saying: forecheck, back check, paycheck. It's like being a lineman in football. There's not a lot of glory in forechecking and back checking, but the good players, the well-rounded players, the reason like Patrice Bergeron is considered a god is he can completely dominate a game without scoring a point with his forechecking, back checking. But most people don't want to do it because it's a lot of work for a little payoff. But and you kind of have to do it as a team. And about halfway through the game, the one thing I was doing well is forechecking. Not so much the back checking, but the forechecking, the offensive stuff to keep the puck in the offensive zone. And I said to Taylor and a couple of All-Star was on my team. I was playing against Scott Black. I say, you know what? Forechecking is like putting migrant children in cages. All it really takes is the will to do it. It's not hard. It's just the will to do it. I mean, putting the kids in the cages physically is the easy part. You just have to want to do it. And the look that you have right now is the reaction that I got. I enjoyed that. So one of my shifts, I went over and I told Scotty Black, I was forechecking him pretty well. And I'm like, yeah, forechecking, it's not hard. You just have to want to do it. And I said, like putting migrant children in cages. And so every time the rest of the night I was forechecking him, I just kept yelling at him, I have the will to do it. And then I told him, it's like at one point, it's like, I'm going to test out the theory. Your kids might wind up in dog crates tomorrow at Biff's party because, I have the will to do it. So Scotty Black, Canadian, very polite, quiet, really great guy, nicely brings me a stick like he did in Phoenix. I think I told you the stick story in Phoenix where I conned his own kid into throwing his stick down the hall thinking it was mine. Anyways. So about 10 minutes left in the game, I look to Taylor and I say, do you think Scotty Black is going to realize that I'm the kind of guy that borrows a stick from him and intentionally leaves it on the other side of the rink on the bench after the game when we get into the locker room? And John gave him too much credit and said, oh, he'll remember. I almost forgot. Game's over. I truly skate. I'm almost off the ice and I realize, oh, yeah, I got to bring the stick all the way back and put it on the far side of the rink back on the bench. And there was a couple guys there, and people forget their extra sticks sometimes, so the last guy on the bench will bring the extra sticks, with them. And I'm like, leave this stick here. So not only do I do that, not only do I wait for Scotty to take the skates off, but to shower and to be ready to go. And then I say, Scotty, 10 minutes left in the game, I asked John if you would remember that I'm that much of a dick that I would borrow your stick and intentionally leave it out on the bench. And he just puts his head down. And I'm like, you tried to kick the ball again, didn't you, Charlie Brown? And then it dawns on me, Joe, who was it who pulled the ball away from Charlie Brown?
Lucy.
And then who did Charlie Brown go to for therapy?
It's a profit deal.
Seriously, did that woman not fuck him up so many different ways? She so physically tormented him in sports and then charged him a good nickel to spout his problems.
And I think now she's the head of the RNC. So, it kind of worked out.
I thought she was over at the NRA. It's hard to tell. Are they the same thing now?
Yeah, you're right. Lucy is Dana Lesh.
She, so anyway, and then in the parking lot afterwards, I'm talking to Scotty Black about it. And I'm like, when I do these things and I tell these stories about how I do this to you, Scotty, nobody puts their hand up to high-five me. Nobody says, oh, Jacques, that was a good one. You're awesome. People just look at me and think, you're a dick.
Yeah, that's just in the line in Star Wars. So, we're already at like the 50-something minute mark. So, in the interest of time, I would like to just really hit like the skip forward button to either a defunct sponsor or maybe touch on one news item or one thing. But like, let's maybe not have the awful this week because the awful will be there. And you know what? This isn't about the awful. It's about the awesome.
Yeah, the only thing is the Paul Ryan with the book, and it's like, fuck you. Just,
whatever.
I
don't even know what that is. Who gives a shit?
Okay. Former Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, who never stuck to Trump and always apologized. And the funniest tweet I saw, at least his book will have a spine. And that was the funniest thing I saw about that. But we will go to the defunct sponsor because I can't remember. I didn't want you. What was the voice that I just realized the other day that you can do? You were talking, and I'm like, you got to do.
Was it
But yeah.
Don Knotts? I think it was Don Knotts, right?
I think so. So we'll save that for something juicy. But yeah, we need cash to pay for me to get home.
And I got to take a piss. So here's a defunct sponsor of the week.
Go Paragon Park, Nantasket Beach, now open daily, filled with new rides and attractions, plus excitement on the longest, highest, fastest thrill-a-minute roller coaster in New England, where bargain days are Monday through Saturday. Ride all day from noon to 5 or 6 to closing for one price. Bring the family to Paragon Park, Nantasket Beach, only 18 miles from Boston. Bay State Line boats leave every day from Long Wharf. Buses from Quincy Square break away to Paragon Park. Free admission, free discount coupons at all participating Stop and Shop Bradley's or McDonald's.
So in sport, Joe, did you watch the women's soccer team defend and be, I think, only the second, World Cup champion in men's or women's to win back-to-back World Cups?
I did not watch it. I followed, the news reports online. I'm happy for the U.S. national women's soccer team, and I'm glad that they're getting the pay that they deserve, apparently. It's
great, and it's funny because of the strife with Megan, one of the team captains, and she's great. She's 34, and it's funny. Her girlfriend, plays in the WNBA and wrote a really funny op-ed about her and the whole situation which was going on, which is absolutely great. But just focusing on the sport thing. Well, the good thing about the politics is management wanted to watch the game. Like, she was dialed in. I wonder how many more people watched it because they were either, it's weird to think like you would have Republicans rooting against her or rooting against Team USA. But more people watched it, and it was great. It was a great game. It was wonderful. She scored the first goal, the go-ahead goal. They ended up winning 2-0, but so she technically got the cup-winning goal. It's great when you have. It's one thing when you have somebody. When Colin Kaepernick was speaking out, dude, you're a backup quarterback. You know what I mean? You're. But to have the best player, the one who got the trophy. I think it's the Golden Boot for not the best one in the game, but in the whole tournament and stuff like that. She was a high scorer. It was a great game. It was fun. And it's true. It's like, I get the whole men's soccer brings in more money worldwide, but not in the U.S. I don't think more people watch, I can tell you the women's U.S. soccer team, more people watch them in the finals than all the U.S. men's teams collectively in the U.S. finals because they've never made it to the finals. And here there's only been 8 Women World Cups. And Team USA has won 4, 3 second-place finishes, and 1 third-place finish. So the worst they've ever done is bronze once. Gold, 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 silver, 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 gold. So, bronze. So it was great. It was fun. I'm glad about the ticker tape parade. I'm glad that they're getting the kudos that they should. And the other thing is, when they're entering the political space, they're all well-spoken. These aren't the... how many athletes do we know? Like, we love Rob Gronkowski, but I don't want him speaking,
Yeah, let alone on politics. You don't want him speaking, period.
I'm glad that he got that Tide Pod commercial, but,
So they paid him in Tide Pods, so that was a bad thing.
which he then had to be told not to eat.
Right, they were delicious. Was the tweet?
Are you playing any games? Well, let's move right on to video. Where are you in the video sphere? I'm guessing the last 3 weeks you've played a shitload of games.
What have I been playing? Mostly retro. I think I've played Ghouls and Ghosts, which is an arcade game for the Sega Genesis. What else? Pretty boring stuff. Before I went to see Far From Home, I did revisit the New Game Plus file on my Marvel Spider-Man for PS4. I haven't played or downloaded or bought the DLC package that came out like 6 months ago. But it's like $25. I think it cost me $25 for the three of us to go to see the Spider-Man movie at a matinee at the theater down the street from us. So I probably will not buy the DLC for $25. But, it's mostly boring retro stuff that I've been playing. A lot of swearing at the TV. I have a mental problem. When I play these old games, I know going into them that they're going to be frustrating, and then when I do badly on them, immediately I just start swearing. And it's mostly at myself for wasting my life. But I don't know. It's like one of those comfortable feelings. Like I'm so used to that feeling of getting so angry at the game that but I still want to finish it. I still want that sort of sense of accomplishment, even though there is no accomplishment. And therein lies the folly, Jacques. So, I think that's the extent of my video game playing for the week. I trust that since you are traveling, you obviously aren't playing video games yourself, right?
I have not. So the funny thing is, before leaving, we talked about the big meltdown that my oldest one has, who seriously has a video game problem we kind of have to seriously start addressing. But leaving and packing the car, if you want to get out a pen and follow along at home, his mom bought him a brand new Kindle, and he has his iPad. There's an old phone that has different games than an old iPhone phone, like a way back in the day, an iPhone 6. He has the Switch, the Kindle, the Switch. So he has a Switch, the new Kindle, brand new out of the package Kindle, the iPad, and a phone. And now driving, he can't turn on the screens. We're sometimes in the car for 10 hours a day. It's got to be 2 hours of no screen and just talking and looking out the window and stuff. But before they can turn it on, they got to read and write in their journals. So they have to do some of that stuff. But yeah, I'm fine with playing games. But there was a meltdown. I wasn't going to let him bring his PS4. And I kept saying, we're not staying anywhere. Like when we stay at a hotel, like when we got to Niagara Falls, we got there at like 8 at night, checked in, walked around for 3-4 hours, checked out all this cool stuff, and then we got to the hotel, went to sleep, got up 7 hours later, packed the car, walked around for a couple more hours, and then drove. There was no time to plug it in. I will say, and management posted this, while at those immersive games where a cop in this town, it's, things happen that the boys like. There's maybe 10 people, 12 people in the room that can hold 40, and you do a practice round first, and then it shows a picture of the best scorer in the room, and it was me. And I'm like, you're all going to die, bitches. My boys thought that was hilarious. And then when the actual game started and you got control of the gun and the chair starts moving, and I scream out, Leroy Jenkins. There was about 4 or 5 people in the room who got the reference. And, I killed it. I absolutely killed it. And so they put the picture up like the high score, and it's me. I took a picture of it, and management posted it and said, see, all those years of playing Resident Evil haven't been wasted. So that's a little validation right there.
Good. I'm glad that you got some real life validation out of your real life time wasting efforts.
So we make our way to California, Joe, stopping off at 4 parks. Niagara Falls, Roswell. We get to Renetsky's house. She has a PS4.
Oh!
And instantly I get see, Papa, we should have brought the games. So we have so little downtime. I mean, honestly, it's been go, go, go. Like I said, Sunday we stayed at Disney. Monday, Tuesday, walked over 12 miles each day. Wednesday had a bunch of Saturday, we went to the beach. We're in the water at 7:30 beach day. Sunday, we go down to Anaheim. Thursday, there's no time. But I did bring it, and there is a GameStop. Literally, you can't get from Renetsky's house to the highway without going by 2 GameStop. So before management got here, I'm like, because I know the week coming up, they're going to be here and they're going to get to play games because I have meeting. Okay, we can 1 game each. You go in there. He got a Switch game. And then I see a couple on the new release, but older games, like 2 new Resident Evil games. So there was 3 Resident Evil games. So I took screen grabs and I text them to Carnival Personnel's resident senior Resident Evil expert, Chris Berrigan, and I said, which one do I get? And he broke it down. This one does this, and this is what's good about this game, and this is what's good about this game. I like this more than both of them. So I took his advice. I got it both.
Nice.
Because it was a buy one get one free type thing. So I bought 2 of those. I got the Telltale Batman game that I haven't obviously got, but I haven't got to play these games yet, and I won't till I get back. But so yes, so driving across country, all the theme parks, all the crazy stuff along the way, and I think the highlight was that Renette had a PS4.
So I guess we'll move on to TV. What are you watching? Probably nothing.
Literally, the only thing I've watched on TV since leaving, Boston 3 weeks ago is the World Cup final. I set an alarm too, so I would know where it was going on, and we watched that, and truly, that's it. And then again, the only movie that I've done is that. So, what have you watched?
The latest thing that I finally watched on Amazon Prime that I haven't seen made available in many years, but I've wanted to see, was a documentary called I Know That Voice. It's directed by John DiMaggio, who does the voice of Bender from Futurama and a bunch of other cartoon voices. And it's a 2013 documentary about the voiceover acting world, the voice acting world. And it has like dozens of voice actors all being interviewed, giving their experiences on the voice industry. It was made before Gary Owens died. Do you know who Gary Owens is?
Yep.
Live from beautiful downtown Burbank, from Laugh-In. That guy, he's interviewed. But it's pretty fascinating. If you like cartoons or just like those types of that voice acting world, Kevin Conroy's in it, Mark Hamill's in it. But it's interesting. I would say check that out if you have Amazon Prime. The other thing I watched on HBO, it's a recent documentary that came out about, to bring the show down a little bit, about Michelle Carter, the girl who was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in Massachusetts a couple of years ago for coercing her boyfriend via text to commit suicide. Oh,
right. Wow, there's a documentary on that already. That seems pretty fresh, pretty raw.
Yeah, the crime occurred. Well, the suicide occurred in 2014, July 2014, and then the trial was, I believe, 2017. And it was a trial by judge, and she waived the right to a trial by jury. It's pretty fascinating because the unique nature of the so-called crime, where you have their entire conversation is documented, like their entire relationship essentially was based on via text. Like they met through mutual friends in Massachusetts. They were from separate towns, and they really only had a relationship romantically, if you want to call it that, by text. So it really gets into the psyche of Michelle Carter, like the world she grew up in, which, she grew up in, they both grew up in, pretty average white suburban towns, but, and families, but Michelle's world seemed to be more detached. Like her view on reality was a lot more skewed. And I think they get into like the mental problems that both of them had, both Conrad Roy, the boy who committed suicide, and Michelle Carter, and it's fascinating. It's not as black and white. She was painted by the media to be this sort of conniving, cold-hearted Black Widow bitch who wanted attention for herself by having a boyfriend commit suicide, and then her being the woe was me girlfriend on Facebook to bring more attention to herself. But it's a little deeper than that. It's not as black and white as you might think looking from the outside. So they don't really answer every question about like, oh, this is what her motivation was and this is what was really behind it. But it really does sort of like make you think about how again, we always fall into the trap of like, don't believe everything that you read. Don't, the media. Yes, there are good parts to journalism, but then there's also the sensational part of journalism, especially in high-profile court cases where things can get skewed and perceptions can be changed based on coverage. And that certainly was the case with this trial. They even interviewed people around town asking like what their opinion was before the verdict was given. Who do you think she's guilty? Do you think she should go to jail? And a lot of the consensus was, yeah, she was cold-blooded or heartless, and how could she do such a thing? When really, she didn't technically do anything, and it also opens up a can of worms legally. Like, now, if you bully somebody online and they commit suicide, are you now culpable for that? Are you now, could you possibly be charged with a crime? And, this sort of sets a weird precedent. But yeah, that's fascinating. It's a 2-part documentary on HBO. You'll never see it. But anybody with HBO, check it out. It's called I Love You, Now Die.
Does anybody have HBO? Not everybody canceled it after Game of Thrones was off. I thought I didn't know they were still around.
I know. I'm a sucker, aren't I?
So you got a parenting tip of the week there, Joseph? Don't have kids.
Hey, my parenting tip of the week. We should have 3 parenting tips because we've been off for 3 weeks. My parenting tip would be take your kids to as many Six Flags as possible. If you have the means, take advantage of the time while you have it.
The crazy thing about that is it doesn't cost anything. The Six Flags, because we have the season pass at the one in Agawam, it works at all of them. I mean, that's the reason, like, you and I didn't go to all the Six Flags on our cross-country trip because we would have had to pay. And when I say nothing, I mean the passes cover parking in the park. So by the time I get back there, we will have seen between 8 and 10 Six Flags, and we'll have spent $0 going in and $0 on parking. And we got these cups that we bought last year that are refillable, like, soda and lemonade and stuff. So the biggest cost of getting into the park, parking and then food and stuff like that. So literally we're getting at that. The cheapest part of the trip is actually going into the parks for us, That's how they get you.
What's your parenting tip?
Along the lines of Six Flags, I think my parenting tip is after the first time you do that giant ride where you're strapped with your kids and these sleeping bags suspended by a crane 30 stories up and drop them, and then you decide you're not going on a second time, but you're okay with them, make sure they know, you tell them you love them. You might not get that chance again. So, take the time before putting them on a death-defying ride that you yourself swore you would never do again, and I swear it again, and maybe I'll buckle and do it when I'm 71, 21 years from now. But, just before they do something like the Lex Luthor where it drops them 40 stories, tell them you love them because you just might not get that chance again. And that's it. So I don't know when we'll record next, maybe because I have no idea. Next Friday I'll probably be driving, but we'll see. But maybe we'll do another one before I get back, because I was going to tell you about going through Georgia and working for that political campaign, maybe. But we'll see, because I know you just sit in the basement waiting for me to Skype in. I know that.
It took us a whole podcast length to figure out the Skype before we actually started Skyping. So no, I'm not looking forward to another Skype podcast. I do like spacing out in general, but spacing out our podcasts like this in the summertime because, it sort of gives us an air of like, oh, they have a schedule, or, oh, they have lives outside of their podcasting world. Shows go on hiatuses for the summer. Why should ours be any different?
My last question to you is, how much chips and queso dip have you eaten since I've left?
I actually I did buy some chips and queso dip last week to eat by myself for dinner twice. It's a brand of salsa con queso Chi-Chis. They're okay. I don't know. It was the milder variety, but I don't know. It's a toss up between Chi-Chis and Tostitos brand salsa con queso dips.
Well, I was kind of hoping that, with our break apart, it would maybe help with the diabetes a little bit by me not coming over there with scent and a sack full of goodies.
Oh, trust me. I've made up for you not being here with candy by stopping at a Wendy's every day or every other day to pick up a small chocolate Frosty because Fatty needs his icy cream.
Wait a minute. I'm about to get a this just in thing. So the producer in the control room is sending me a note. Let's see.
Hot off the press.
Cheech. Okay. I'm going to say this out loud. This came straight from our senior Korean language correspondent. Chi-Chi means boobs in Korean.
Hey-o!
Just, I was just handed this note. This just in from the control room. I say we just in now. Just in now. Maybe play the Star Wars theme on the way out to, memorialize my crying, like a little schoolgirl seeing the Falcon. But let's end on the fact that Chi-Chi means boobs in Korean.
That actually explains why the jar had a nipple on it. And well, thanks for listening to the Carnival Personnel Podcast. You can follow us online. You just go and try and find it. I ain't gonna give you the actual handle for the Instagram and the Facebook and the Twitter. You can go fuck yourself if you think I'm gonna give you that much information, because that's how they get you. In a couple of weeks, I think we'll probably next broadcast or podcast, if you will, live from our basement like the old days, because these connections kind of suck, and I'm going to have to do a lot of editing out of dead air space between the delay, and I don't want to have to do that twice in one summer, because I got a lot of swearing at the retro games that I play. So anyways, Jacques, enjoy the rest of your trip. Have a safe trip back. Thank you for teaching me Korean boobs. And and then, what was I going to ask you to do or tell you to do? I forgot. Oh, don't forget.